Broadcasting from Ireland, featuring interviews with some of the biggest names in magic. Welcome to the Deceive Reality Podcast with your hosts, David Peace and Steve Spade.
And we're live. That's great.
Whoa.
New intro. Opens it up. And it worked. It's brilliant. And guys, we're so happy to have Daniel Garcia joining us here today. Daniel, how are you doing?
I'm doing good, man. How are you?
Doing great.
We're pretending like we haven't said this already, even though this was like 5 minutes ago.
it didn't happen.
We can do it again. Yeah, you gotta keep it interesting for the peeps. Yeah, I'm doing great. How are you? Where are you at? Ireland?
yeah, we are in Cork. Actually, it's about an hour and a half from Limerick. We need like a subscription.
You like my hat? We're good.
Yeah, you got a dope hat. It's pink. That's nice. I like it.
So in the podcast, we always start with the same question, which is the question magicians get asked the most, which is, how did you get started in magic? I heard you were 4 in some interview before. Is that true? And how did that all kick off?
This is a podcast about magic?
Yeah, I know, right?
I was actually 5, so whichever one you heard that from, they gave me an extra year credit. So let's just go with that. That sounds great.
4 is better.
It was 5. My family doesn't do magic, so but my parents really liked watching magic, like on television. So they really dug watching David Copperfield. And so I vividly remember it. I was sitting down, man, and just I was like on the floor. My dad was on the couch, busting a hard chill like I'm doing right now. And my mom was next to him, and I was down on the floor, like kind of between his legs, like propped up like that, watching TV. And I remember, I don't remember the actual effect. That's it might have been like a dancing tie type thing, where the tie starts singing. I can't remember. I just remember watching it, and I remember like people applauding and people laughing, and I like distinctly remember that I wanted to make people do that. Like it wasn't like the actual magic part was fascinating, but like doing that to people. And I was always kind of like a silly kid, you know what I mean? So I think that was just kind of thing. And then whenever the magic aspect got into it, that was fascinating already, obviously. But it was the construction of how things worked, like the method and the mechanisms and that kind of stuff, that just like really like dug into me hard.
Yeah,
that's awesome.
Definitely. Some people saying hey already. That's great. Thanks for joining us.
What up, dude? Oh, it's Regan, man. That dude's a dope dude.
I always think David Copperfield's name comes up a lot as the inspiration. And I think it's just that level of performance. And as you're saying, bringing joy to people is something that I see in a lot of your magic. And even when I was watching some clips before this, and my wife was watching them, she's like, that's the happiest magician I've ever seen.
Oh, that's super dope. That's awesome. Right on.
I really think that's your style. And is that just, as you think you're a bit of a silly kid, has that always just been the way you perform?
Yeah, I mean, I've always kind of tried to be a class clown. I mean, I don't think I ever really succeeded in it, but I've always just like, I really like making people laugh. Early on, I really enjoyed making people laugh. And then even like kind of, that's an awesome question. And then even like not like, I mean, I was still young, but like, I'll say like 9, 10-ish, like when I was like 9 or 10 young, that was like, I really enjoyed making people happy. Like that was a super cool thing for me. And my parents were extremely loving. So like, that was like, you know, we had no problem telling each other, like, I love you, like in front of our friends and things like that. Like that didn't compute to us, like that was a weird thing. And like, I would have friends that would be like, man, I hate my folks. And I would just be like, that you live in a weird house, man. Like my folks are dope. And and we were always taught like respect and kindness and like that kind of stuff. So, I mean, I mainly owe it to my folks. Like they were the dopest, you know? And so that bled over. I tried to do like the whole kind of like serious stage double dove split type thing. And it was cool and I liked it, but I think I latched onto Copperfield was charming and I latched on to being charming. I really thought that was a dope quality in somebody. And I was like, how do I be like that? Like, that's cool. You know what I mean? Right. And then I just noticed that like the kinder and like happier I was, like that was, like infectious, like people would kind of get in a better mood around you. And I like that mood. I like being around that mood. Like nobody wants to be like having a shitty day. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
yeah,
man.
I think the thing with Copperfield as well, the way he can mix the real kind of intimate close-up magic with the big illusion, it kind of draws you in from both sides. So he's really appealing to kind of every type of people watching it or magicians watching it.
It's funny. I agree with you, but I also think it's deeper than that. I mean, obviously, this is all with a grain of salt, and this is all just my thoughts, so it could be completely wrong. But I think that it's a lot of things. One, he is a perfectionist. I remember watching things on television, and it was so perfect. Everything was so. It didn't look like you watch a lot of magicians nowadays, and I'm talking about from a magic side already, on just a magic side, because I think there's a whole separate side with laymen. But as a magic side, everything was so well thought out. And so if anything went wrong, they had a solution for it. Everything was workshopped over. And you could tell that, even at a young age, I could tell this is perfection. I remember watching, what was it? The Barclay House, where he does the spirit cabinet, right? Whoa, you freaked me out, bro. I went like this, and you covered your screen. I was like, whoa.
It just moved down. I was just adjusting it, and it all went red. We're good, I think.
That was so lined up perfectly with my hand going over. That was funny. I remember watching the Barclay House, and he did the spirit cabinet thing where you tie the rope, and then you cross your hands. And that method is straight up in Tarbell. You know what I mean? It's that's a straight up old school method. And I remember watching him, and this is before I kind of knew things about television, how things are, how television's kind of done for the audience to feel a certain way. And I remember thinking, man, this dude practiced so hard to get this move to look flawless. Because normally, you would have to kind of stutter. The problem nowadays with magic is I think that theocracy has kind of taken over a little bit, to where people are nobody's going to notice my thumb doing this. You know what I mean? Yeah, people are going to notice. They just don't know what you did. You know what I mean? They don't, but they felt like something happened. And if they feel like something happened, then that doesn't matter anyway. You know what I mean? Once again, all grain of salt. This is all just, but with Cop, I remember watching that move and being but I remember it making me go, if he can do it, then I can do it. If that means it's possible. So if it's possible, that means that I can achieve that thing. And I remember sitting there and trying and trying. Now, that goes in the opposite direction though too. I remember watching him fly and being I guess that motherfucker can fly. Woo! You know what I mean? And I remember so it's not like I was totally rational. Oh, this is getting me all messed up.
I tried the same after seeing David Blaine levitate. I was if I just focus enough.
Yeah. If I just think really hard, which I mean, it's hard. I think that that's a dope thing. I think that we lose that as adults, obviously, because we have reality, but who cares, man? That's a dope way of thinking. Just to think that that's possible. That's awesome.
Yeah.
It's kind of how many times did you jump off a wall before you realize, oh, maybe I can't fly like Copperfield? It's one of those kind of things.
One off, bro. First off, I don't know how you're sticking to those walls. Jumping off a wall sounds crazy. You might be talking about Spider-Man. Yeah, no, it's true. That was crazy, man. I remember that dude was inspiring. It sums up to that. That dude was so inspiring. And so it was just everything about him was creativity, method, everything was you know what I mean? The amount of hard work, the perseverance, every single thing about that dude, the charm, he had, there was a gentleman type quality about him. You know what I mean? All of it. And people genuinely felt dope around that dude. And that's kind of I dig that. And I still, to this day, it's man, I just really, I read a thing, I think it was on Instagram or something like that, last week, I think it was, and it resonated really hard with me, where it was it said, be the adult that you needed when you were a kid. And I was whoa, that's amazing. That's awesome. You know what I mean? And so, I don't know. I just want people to feel dope, dude. That's all.
And that's when you became a drug dealer. No?
Yeah. Oh. Now I sell crack.
Magic and crack, they're the same thing, really.
They're great around me. They're all homeless, but they're cool.
Both are addictions.
Crack means crack is a whole different thing here, man. Crack, if you ask for crack or looking for crack in Ireland, it's a different thing.
I mean, I'm not looking for anything, bro. How do you say coffee? Can I find coffee?
It's funny, actually, in Ireland, because we say crack for fun. A friend of mine was at a job in America, and he was asked, "Oh, how was your weekend?" And he said, "Great, amazing crack." And they were like, all the Americans were like, "What?"
Wait, so crack means fun?
Yeah, it's the Irish language, so it's like C-R-I-C, or C-R-A-I-C. So it's like crack. Just means
wow,
that you had fun.
That's a hilarious sketch. Somebody needs to do a sketch about that.
Yeah, becoming. You've mentioned your parents being like one of the reasons why you get a lot of stuff from you, and I think a lot of people in Magic really fell in love with them on the UltraGaff DVDs, when especially your mom's reaction to like the tricks that you're doing. Right. I think they're still some of the best reactions at any Magic DVD. What was it like filming?
My mom, dude, she's dope.
Yeah, what was that like filming with them for the performances of the UltraGaff DVDs?
Oh, that's awesome. I mean, it's not like they're dope, man. I think a lot of people take filming way too seriously nowadays, but like it's like you're just having fun, man. Like, and like I wanted to. It's kind of difficult because I didn't really achieve what I wanted to achieve until I released this Trick Mint box like a couple years ago or a year ago. I don't remember how long ago that was, but so I didn't get to achieve. But at the time, it's really hard, like. You know, whenever you have like dope folks, like you want to make them proud. Like that's pretty much like I didn't understand that as a kid as much as I do right now. I mean, I'm 39. Is that how old I am? I don't know how old I am. What about 22? So I understood that I wanted to like, make my parents proud. Obviously, I need to charge a phone, or else you're gonna lose me, bro. You're gonna hold on. Now, obviously, I take these things very seriously. I was completely ready for this. Hold on. It's a plug. Boom. Easy peasy. Lemon squeezy. I don't think I've ever said that in my life. All right. So, okay, don't install that. Anyway, so all right, back to serious. So, my folks, like, I think that, like, you want to make your parents proud. You know, you want them to be proud of like the things you do. Like, hey, look at this drawing I did, that kind of stuff. And so UltraGaff was like, that was the first project that I had been contacted for that was like, everything that I had done before that was something that I had already been doing. That like I was doing restaurants and corporate and all that stuff. And I had magic shops, like all kinds of stuff, you know what I mean? And so that was like the first time that somebody had called and been like, yo, can you do this? I have a goal for you. Can you create 56 original things? And that, like, at the time, that really hadn't been done in that kind of capacity. So I loved the creative challenge of that. And so that was like the first time that I was like, and that was also the first time that it was just like, man, like a company really, this is excluding like Paul Harris and Chris Kenner are very heavily the reason of why like my career kind of shot in the direction that it did. They were basically like kind of rocket boosters for me. Like I had kind of started the engine, my career had started taking off, and then these guys were both like, follow me, you know what I mean? So they like kind of opened a path and were like, yo, dude, you can do this if you want to do this. So that was the first time that I could be like, yo, man, I want to show my parents like kind of the world that I'm doing. Cause they like, even to this day, if you ask my folks, they're just like, no, we're proud of him. He travels the world and he works with this and he's hanging out with celebrities. He's doing all this crazy stuff that I honestly don't like. It's kind of, I'm very grateful for that stuff, but I just want to do magic, man. Or I just want to be creative, not even just magic. I just want to go be creative. Like I want to go do creative things. And so that was the first time that I could be like, oh, come and let me show you like what I'm doing and show people like the kind of people that you are. Like you're dope people. Like you're amazing individuals. Like my folks go to all the conventions. Like there's a convention in Texas called TAOM that I've been going to since I was like 13. I haven't been able to go in a bit, but they still go. Like I haven't gone in like the last 3 or 4 years in a row. They go without me. Like and everybody knows them. Everybody's just like, what up, Danny? What's up, Diana? How's Daniel? He's doing good. He's doing all right. Like whatever they're doing, like they're amazing. I don't know why I gave my mom that accent. She doesn't talk like that. But yeah, man, they're
That's
just
cool, man.
dope people. Yeah. So it's awesome. That's a really long-winded way to answer your question, but they're just amazing, and it was amazing to be able to do. I would love to do that again at another capacity, like with like some of the things that I'm doing now. because it's a lot. It's much bigger, or even have them on set for like if I'm helping out with a movie or helping out with a magic special or something like that. I would love to like just bring them out on set, which I haven't done yet. So I should do that once kind of this whole pandemic thing chills out. But I think that's kind of the next step for me to be like, and check this out. Like, this is awesome. Like, you guys would dig this.
No, it's cool to have supportive parents when you're in the arts or in a creative field. I mean, it really does help if they're not like, oh no, you got to be a lawyer, you got to be a doctor, you got to be, you can be whatever you want to be.
Yeah, man. Oh, I think it was a huge, like, I can't even stress enough how much, like, and once again, you don't realize it when you're that young. You realize that you have supportive parents, but I appreciate it. You don't appreciate it as much as you do when you're older and you're like, man, you really did, like, you suffered a lot, like, because we didn't have a lot of money, you know what I mean? Like, we weren't poor, but like, it was like we were definitely like paycheck to paycheck sometimes. And both my parents worked. Like both my parents got up early morning. They took off. They left. We would stay with my grandparents. You know what I mean? Like until like late, afternoon till they got back from work. Like it was, they worked hard for us. And to hear like your kid be like, yeah, I don't want to go do the norm. I want to go do magic. Like it's a very easy thing to be like, yeah, why don't you become an electrician? You know what I mean? Or something like that. And it
sounds very, very, I want to be a ninja, or like kids being like, I want to be a princess, I want to be a magician, I want to be an astronaut. And you're like,
yeah, man. And that there was none of that. It was literally like, I want to do that. And that Christmas I had a magic set.
Nice.
Yeah, incredible.
That's cool. Very cool.
Yeah.
You mentioned Mintbox, which is another one of your products I have. One of the things I really liked in the trailer for that was when you showed the magician who you'd met the secret, and then like just selling it on his reaction. I think is a great marketing ploy that I haven't seen before or since, and I think it's definitely a way to go because love that.
I'm actually glad you noticed that, man. It's so I think it's very easy to fall in the norm of how things are selling and how things are done. Like if you look at magic trailers now and you dissect them, they all are almost identical. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Cool intro, dope music, dope visual, reaction shot, close up of the hands. You know what I mean? So it's like, it's always kind of the same, which is cool because aesthetically it's pleasing. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. But it doesn't feel authentic to me. And I really think that authenticity is the future of magic. And so, and also like, magicians watch those things, watching like what the reactions are going to be. But I'm not trying to sell this or put this out for laymen. Like I'm trying to put this out for magicians to use. Like this is something that like if you hung around like in this area or around my friends or at conventions, I've been doing Mintbox for a few years already, out and about, and so it had already been something that was already continuously changing and continuously getting worked on and shopped, and like everything was being chiseled down. And every time I showed it to magicians, it was a dope, like the mechanism itself, the design of the mechanism was something that I was very proud of because of simplicity. Like I think that there's super elegance in simplicity. And so being able to take something down to simplicity and to the most like simplest form that I could think of. I'm not saying that that's the correct answer, but it was the one that I could think of and that changed, man. I mean, that thing literally changed. In one day, it went from like a matchbox to a tin can. Like it rapidly, progressed. And so I knew that I wanted the trailer to do that, but we couldn't force anything like that. So like that was like, and that idea wasn't there. Like it wasn't like I didn't go into the trailer going, I need to get a magician so that I can show this magician how this works. Like that didn't exist in my head. I just knew that I wanted it to feel real. So like, if you look at like the main performance that we use for a group of people, I drop the actual card. The card gets dropped onto the floor, and instead of like taking that all out and being like, well, yeah, man, here's this, like let's clean this up and do this stuff. That's not what happened. It wasn't authentic. Like, and it didn't ruin the trick. Like it was legitimate. Also. I teach like the way that I normally perform it. I do a Mercury fold in the action of closing a spread. And so, and in the trailer, the guy laughs, and I take advantage of the laugh at that moment to do a Mercury fold really quickly. And so I just want people to see, like, you don't have to be set in stone. Like, you need to be liquid. You need to be fluid. Like, you need to go with what's happening, so that way it feels natural. If I would have waited, like a lot of magicians, I think they'll wait to do the move because they practice doing this move flawlessly. You know what I mean? So they're like, no, look at my hands. You didn't see anything, did you? And so, which is the wrong way of thinking, I think. You know what I mean? Like, so so I left all that stuff in, and then that guy said he was a magician, and he happened to come up, and it's really funny. The part that you don't see is afterwards, where he's like, "Dude, I didn't recognize you," because at the time I had lost a lot of weight. I've been working out, eating really healthy, and so I had lost a lot of weight right before that project. And so he didn't recognize me on the street. And afterwards he was like, dude, I didn't even recognize who you were. I've got like this stuff and this stuff. And I was like, right on, bro. But when he came up and he's like, oh, I'm a magician, that's whenever the idea was like, oh, this is a really cool way to show, hopefully, if he likes it, to show magicians at home. Like,
yeah, you don't want him to be like, okay.
Yeah, oh, this is cool. You know what I mean? Yeah.
Yeah.
It's funny because if he would have been like, it's a really crazy struggle. If, like, do I keep that in or do I not keep that in? You know what I mean? Like, it's not authentic if I don't keep it in. So I just think, I don't know, there's like an honesty about it, I think. And I think that there's a dope honesty in magic that's not being taken advantage of right now. That people are smart, man. Like, a lot of magicians say people are stupid, and they're not. People are smart. They're just quiet about how they feel. Yeah,
that's the thing people say. We were saying before that someone said, "Oh, the audience, like, I just do it. The audience doesn't see." I'm like, they're just being polite. Like, they saw it.
But you're not. You're being a lazy magician. That's what you're doing. Yeah. I'm not saying you're wrong. I'm just saying you're being lazy. Like, it's not. Yeah, but the audience, like, I just do this because they don't notice that. Well, why don't they know? Tell me why they don't notice it. Like, at least give me that, because maybe I'm wrong, and I would love to hear what you have, like, what the thought is. You know what I mean? Like, why don't they notice it? Well, if he says, like, well, they don't notice it because I drop my hand in a natural motion as I look up to think about a question. Now I instantly know that they're gonna look at me, and then I turn my body a 3/4 turn and do it on my leg. Then I'm like, well, that's a great solution. You know what I mean? That's not being lazy. That's being smart.
Yeah, definitely. I think taking advantage of the things, as you were saying, when people laugh as well is great. I think where I had a card on my hand and I was ready to put it into my peak wallet, and everybody in the group made a joke. They started laughing, looking at each other. So I just went like that. Nobody saw me look at the drawing and just carried on with the normal presentation. And like,
if you understand how to pull focus and how to direct attention to certain things, I mean, that's still a method. You know what I mean? Yeah. There's a card trick that I was doing for a bit that was legitimately like frying magicians, and I remember I did it in Vegas for a group of people. I put another layer on it though, so that it would still. Basically what I did, I'll tell you exactly what I did. It's like, I hate talking about tricks that I do, but it has to do with this point. There was a girl that was there hanging out doing a show with us, and so she was one of the assistants. And so we are all having a drink that night down in one of the circle bars in Vegas. And I turned to the girl, and it's all majority magicians, and then there's a couple of like friends, right? And there's probably 10 of us, maybe 10 of us, a dozen of us, something like that. And I remember I turned to her because everybody's kind of having conversations, and I turned and I was like, I noticed that nobody was kind of paying attention, and I said, when I say think of a card, just think of the 3 of diamonds or whatever it was, right? I don't remember what it was. I think it was 2 diamonds actually. Just think the 2 diamonds, and she nods her head. So I wait, and then eventually it gets down. We're doing kind of a round robin type. You show something, you show something, you show something. So I was like, yeah, no worries. So I hand her the deck, and I'm like, shuffle the cards, spread the cards out, and I'm gonna look away, and I want you to take any card out, right? And so take any card out, and then and push it forward. And so I turn, and then I say, now I want you to take another card and push it forward of a different color. And I was adding layers just to make it, but I don't know what that card is that she's going to do. I just know one of them's going to be the 2 of diamonds. So I turn and I say, take another card out, make sure it's a different color. And when I say different color, everybody looks down to see which one she's going to take. And I just looked with them just so I could see what the card was, and looked back. And so I go through a whole bunch of steps and a whole bunch of different things. But the moment, it was taking advantage of the actual moment. Now, the other layer that was put on top of it was I actually ended up fooling her because I didn't tell her what the ending of the trick was going to be.
Yeah.
So she ended up becoming an instant stooge, which is, I think, something magicians don't take advantage of enough. She was an instant stooge for me, but I still fooled her with the revelation because she had no clue. Because after that, she ended up shuffling. She like dealt cards, was mixing stuff up, and then she thought of a number and literally just dealt to that number. And so she was like, "What?" And then afterwards, she was like, "Yo, like that was cool, but how did you do this part?" And I just was like, "Oh, but yeah, it's just taking advantage of the situation that you're in at that moment."
That's cool, man.
It's
It's almost like impromptu magic, but there's no kind of such thing as impromptu magic. It's always kind of rehearsed or set up in some kind of way. But I like that kind of idea, the way you're saying, like it's like organic. And in your projects, when you had all the DVD set and all the projects, the Daniel Garcia projects, there was so much of that in it. It seemed like you kind of like were performing with kind of nothing on you, but you could perform all this different magic. And that was a really nice kind of organic place to be. It's kind of raw, kind of.
Yeah, it's really crazy, man, because I'm actually leaning more towards the other direction now, which is strange because I would have never thought that I would have think this. I used to be a really big fan of like, I don't like half dollars. I like quarters. I don't want to do this. I want to do trick with a stick of gum. I don't want to, because I felt like it was organic. I felt like it was a natural, that I was a magical person as opposed to being a magician. And now I've kind of flipped it, man. I'm proud to be a magician now. Like being a magician is dope. So and I think that it's more challenging, to be honest with you. Like if I pull out for like $3 half dollars, old half dollars, like that's my paintbrush. As like, like an artist has a paintbrush, that's now what I'm using as my tool. But now it's like I need them to like, now they're hyper focused because now they're like, oh, he's a magician, he's doing this kind of thing. So I think there's like a challenge now. It's more of like kind of this battle, which I'm kind of like, I'm kind of getting off on, like of just being like, oh wait, I have to think harder and think deeper and put more psychology into what I was doing. Not saying that I'm not a fan of doing organic magic anymore. I'm just saying that my way of thinking organic is now starting to shift and starting to kind of modify itself. You know what I mean? Which I still love that. But to me now it's more of like, how do I make something organic that doesn't seem organic in the first place? Using psychology, using inception, using some stuff like that, How do I sway the conversation into a point that I want it to get to so that what I'm doing doesn't feel out of place?
Cool. Very cool.
I think that's interesting, like with the half dollars and stuff, because in Ireland, I found, Steve's probably had the same, like bicycle playing cards are not for sale in Ireland. They're nowhere. So then you build out this deck that nobody's seen before. And like in America and other places, it's like, oh yeah, that's what a deck of cards is. But over here, people are like, what's that deck? Why is it so big? Because
do you find that people nowadays are questioning the cards? Because I hear a lot of magicians say that, and I haven't had people like I've never had a person. So it's really fascinating to me. I've never had a person be like, I've never seen those cards. So maybe when I was younger, because there was only a few different types of styles. But now I think that there's so many different designs on playing cards nowadays that now playing cards are just playing cards. I don't know if that's right, but do you find that people like question if you use a certain type of deck or not?
It's more like, oh, is that marked is like a thing. And you're like, even if they are, no, have a look. But it's more like the really heckly spectators are the ones being like, I've never seen those cards. And then I just say, watch Friends. They use those cards. But it definitely hasn't been as much lately that it has had. People have been questioning, but it's definitely a couple of years ago. It was just like every time people like, what cards are those? Why? Because I think it is the size thing with bicycle cards. Like they're bigger than like the ones you get just in your corner shop, which would be much smaller and plastic. So then I always used to say they're bigger so people can see them, and that's why I use them.
Wow, I didn't know that. That's interesting.
We've always been in a position where you're in a bar and the barman gives you out the deck that they have behind the bar. Do the trick with those cards, and you still do something or whatever, and that will always fry them even stronger you're limited to what you can do because it's like it's been dried with beer and it's been dry and wet like 5 times, and the deck is like this thick.
Yeah. See, that's where I think organic is, though. That's where I think that organic is dope, because that is something that you should not fear. You know what I mean? So you should understand enough about, like, have enough tools in your repertoire to be able to be like, got it, like do something with this. And like, if I was put in that, I mean, I have been put in that position, but I think that if it was like a really bad deck like that, I would instantly call attention to how bad that deck is. I would make it a joke, make everybody laugh, make sure not to offend him, because I don't want to offend anybody. So make sure not to offend him. And then, like, in my head, looking at the type. So here, normally there'll be bicycle cards like around. That's kind of the norm, because that's kind of the most popular thing that's kind of sold at, and I guess B-backs are kind of the more popular. They're in like the pharmacies and things like that. So I would try to see what it is. If he's got a deck that I have on me, now I know that I have an instant effect. Now I know that problem solution has now been introduced into the thing, because I've now called attention how crazy and how thick and how gross this deck is. But now if I have a deck that's exactly the same, now I can just take that, and then afterwards I can switch it out really fast, except for like the top card that's gross. You know what I mean? Just do a color change here. Let me fix this for you. Make it look like I smashed it. Yeah, that looks about right. Now you get a whole new effect built in that feels organic in that moment, even though like I think that's how to think organically. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Or just figure out what to do with that deck. That's dope. You know what I mean?
I was just trying to think on my feed, and the barman handed me out the deck, so I did a haunted deck with the cards, and everyone freaked out when the card, because I just had one picked randomly, put in and whatever, and it turns out that the guy who owned the deck had died, and they left him behind the bar, and no one, he used to come in and play like poker with his buddies, but he had died, and they left the deck behind the bar, and no one had touched him, and I just got someone pick a card, put it back in, haunted deck, it moved, we know how it works, it came out, it fell out onto the table. And they all started freaking out, and I was like, "What?" And they were like, "Oh, that's his lucky card." I was like, "Whose lucky card?" And then they told me,
"Damn,
yeah." They told me about the deck and who owned it and all this, and I was just like, "Oh yeah, sure, maybe it's a sign from him."
That's crazy. That's insane, dude.
Nuts.
That's a crazy story.
You love this, Michael. We got a question actually sent in on this topic from Chris. It was like, "What's your go-to impromptu trick?"
I don't have one.
You don't have one?
I don't ever. I don't hate getting this question at all. I feel like I'm always a disappointment whenever I get this question, because I don't have a favorite impromptu. I don't have a favorite trick in general. It depends on. I'm a fan of figuring out what is needed at that moment. So depending on what the feeling is, the mentality of the people that I'm doing it for. Like if I'm out, or like whenever we could be out. Like, how drunk are they? You know what I mean? That's something that comes into play. Like, I don't want to do anything. And also, I'm not a fan of like, I do magic like a lot when I'm out. Like, I haven't done like a formal show in a bit. I did one in China a couple years ago, which was amazing. And there you can do like kind of procedural type, more theatrical type things. But if you're out and about, man, you just need to hit. You know what I mean? You want to hit is what you want. You want those dopamine levels to pop. You know what I mean? Surprise. So I try to kind of like, I feel out the crowd. Like, what's the mood of this crowd? What's this? I believe in like a social equilibrium. So if I think that the crowd is too kind of like subdued, then did I use that word right? And then I'll slowly elevate my like energy. So that way they come up a little bit and I start coming down a little bit. Or if I'm too much, then I'll come down to them a little bit, just so they'll start coming up. If I go too high, then they'll reject it. Now I'm just crazy. You know what I mean? You don't like this dude. He's really on crack. Like he's actually on crack. So I try to like, I'll come down a little bit to match them, and so that way they start coming up until we reach that level. And depending on where that level's at, now I start figuring out like, is this? It's also momentum too, right? Like, who am I doing magic for? Who's like, what's that momentum going? You know what I mean? Is this trick going to be better? Like if I'm doing, like I remember I was at a convention one time, and it was early morning. I think we stayed up all night. It was like a 24-hour like jam, and it was one of those nights where I was like, man, I'm going to jam tonight. Like I'm going to go sit out and just jam with a bunch of people because I love it. And so I think it was like it was either early morning or late night, something like that. And there was a group, and there was like some laymen. There was like a kid, like 2 kids, I think is what it was. They didn't do any magic at all. And like, they were you could tell they were bored. And like, we were having a discussion on theory. And I was talking about magic, and they were like, well, if I go do magic for these people, do you think that it's going to change their mood? I was like, you can 100% change their mood with magic. It's just, it's a slippery slope. It's just like, you have to be cautious about it. You have to kind of know the path to take, because you don't know what their day's like. You don't know what they're going through. You don't know any of this stuff. You know what I mean? And magic is a very powerful thing to like kind of, bring the mood up, to make you feel dope. Right. And so they went and did it, and the kids kind of rejected it. Like they were just like, nope. So then in my head, I was like, look, all you have to do is they're both doing Sudoku. That's all they're sitting there doing. They've been playing Sudoku for an hour, right? So just go do Magic Square for them. I guarantee you, if you do Magic Square for them really quick, instantly, both of them are their mind frame at that moment was numbers. That's where their mind frame was. So you can use that to intro into whatever else you want. Like that's the bait's the wrong word, but that is kind of the shining light that gets them to look over, and then they kind of follow after that. You know what I mean? So I don't have that's another really long-winded answer, but I don't have a favorite go-to impromptu thing.
I think it's
I like to jazz a lot, so it's like depending on the situation I'm in. Like I'll my friends know that too, like that I hang out with. So like if I'm with like a couple magicians that go out with me a while, Blake's a really good example, or my buddy Alex back in Houston. Like they'll see my wheels turning. Like they know me well enough now to be like, what's he thinking about right now? And then like with both of those two guys specifically, with Blake and with Alex, there's times when I don't have to say anything. Like I can literally just look over and then do like one look and look at whatever I'm going to do. And they know how I think already. So they'll already understand where I'm going. And then that way it's like that becomes an impromptu effect for me now. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I think it's a good way to like keep people as yourself by jazzing. Cause sometimes we've probably all met the person at the convention and goes, can I show you a trick? And their whole personality changes and they're into a rehearsed routine rather than it just being like the more organic, real impromptu style, which I think jazzing helps with. And we actually got another one in. I'll go through some of these now. So who is do you have any favorite magicians to watch at the moment? Is one of the ones we got in.
At the moment, yeah. See, boom, right there. You got it. At the moment, right now, it's probably going to be Mario Lopez is amazing. That dude is so creative and so good. Like just pure sleight of hand, man. Like that dude is like, he rocks pure sleight of hand so well. So he's probably at the moment my favorite. I always love Jan is always amazing to watch. I have a bunch that I just recently started watching. Was it Jackie Yu? Was that how you say his name? I just recently started watching him on Instagram. Like somebody sent me some videos and I was like, whoa, dude, this dude's super creative. Really clever guy. But those I don't gravitate towards like specific people. I gravitate towards ideas. And so like if I see ideas, then I'm just like, man, this is awesome. This is great. An idea, like nobody's going to bat 300. You know what I mean? Like when it comes with ideas, you know what I mean? So it's like, like I know, like I have things that I am really proud of, and I have things that I'm just like, oh, don't do that anymore, guys.
Leaving reviews on your own products being like, not my best work.
Yeah, man. But I think Mario's doing amazing. Oh, Tobias, is it Dossel?
Yeah.
So creative. He was a sleeper cell for me actually, because I got introduced to him. He released like some sunglass trick, and I was just like, well, that's cool, but it wasn't like nothing against him at all. I was just like, the trick itself didn't resonate with me. And then I met him, and he just started going through ideas with me, and I was like, dude, you're brilliant, bro. Like you're extremely smart, like really, really smart. So yeah, that Blake is another one. Blake's just amazes me with just kind of his cleverness of methods, and how like he likes to think. He really likes to try to come up with things that are different. And there's something very, very endearing about that. I like that.
Michael Amar was saying that as well. When we had Michael Amar on the show very early on, actually, we're on episode 20 now, and when we were talking to him, he was saying being creative in other parts of your life other than your magic will make you more creative in your magic. And 1,000%. Definitely.
One of the things that Blake and actually this thing behind that thing behind me came from this, what I'm about to say. Blake and I started doing this thing at the beginning of quarantine, like right when the pandemic started hitting. We decided that we were going to do this assignment. We're going to do a creative assignment. And so we would get together every single week. And on Sunday, we would figure out what the assignment was. And it wasn't always magic. So this one was create a piece of wall art for each other, specifically for the other person. So what we did is we would come up with a challenge, and then we would come up with rules, and we couldn't break those rules. And if we did break a rule, the other person had to be like, got it. I understand why the rule was broken. You know what I mean? But you pretty much had to follow the rule. And so, or rules. And so, but it went all that, just doing that right there, you learn so much. Like one of the biggest things is if you can find somebody or a group of people that you trust, that you are comfortable around, that you feel safe around, you understand that you listen to each other. Like you don't, it's not about arguing. It's about, you may not agree, but you understand that you respect that person's brain. So there's a reason they came up with that solution. Like there's a reason they did this. So what's that reason? Like, why did you come up with that? And then you need to be able to communicate why you don't agree with that. If you don't still, once you think about it. And so Blake and I were very, very, like, we really started learning about each other a lot. But not only that, we were able to start like elevating each other's kind of process, and we started understanding like how the other person thought. So we would give each other random things. One of them was like make a flip book. So that was one of the creative challenges. You have a week to make a flip book, and it has to have a magical element about it. That's it. So one of them was a piece of wall art. We created a scavenger hunt one time. I think we only did one magic trick. We had to come up with a magic. I think we've only done one that had to do with an actual magic trick. It was create a magic trick. I think it was with a single rubber band. I don't remember, but we started and we kept every single week we did this, and we always did it. Like if one of us was out of town working, we still got together like through Zoom or whatever, and straight up like still did this. So that's a huge thing, man. Like if you start thinking, I think creativity is. It definitely is a way of thinking. Like you just see everything differently, and you start getting in. It's a muscle, right? So you start getting to the point to where you start noticing everything. What can I do with this? What's creative? And you start feeling creativity. So you start feeling, at least in like what I would consider creativity. Like, and obviously what I consider creativity could be completely different than what somebody else does. And so they could be like, bro, that is not creative. That is stupid. So
you do start looking at things like at a different angle or a different shape, or turn it on its side, now it's flat, or it's whatever it might be, and you don't look at it as face value. You look around it and the environment that it's in.
You take anything. If somebody hands you a box and it's like, here, what do you want to do like with this trick? Like you don't want to think of the box. You want to think of everything. Like, what is that box made out of? What is, like, does it cast a shadow? The shadow becomes part of the box now. You know what I mean? So like everything around it, what is it made out of? The corrugation, is it cardboard? Is there does it feel different on the inside? Is it waxed on the inside and not on the outside? Like you start thinking completely different with everything though, and it's not even just like what you're talking about, which looking at different angles and different things like that. It's more like, for myself, it's more of just like, what is somebody not going to think of? Like, what is somebody not going to think of? Like, if somebody's like, here, do a trick with a shoe, instantly, if I'm teaching like a creativity class, so sometimes I do these like creativity classes, and I'll go through and we'll create an effect really fast, right? So I'll just be like, give me a bunch of items, pop, and I'll just start writing them down. And then I'll box out like what I think is interesting. And this is something that I normally just do in my head, but it's like when I'm teaching these classes, I put it out on a board so that way that you can see it. And then if like, let's say they come up with a shoe, I'll be like, give me all the properties of a shoe. And so everybody will start coming up with the properties, right? The shoelaces, the tongue, the sole, the eyelets, the piece of plastic that's around the end of the shoelace, all of the stuff. But now there's so many other things, right? There's the actual shoe print. Shoe print itself becomes part of that shoe. So that's something that you can do with that shoe. Like there's so much like outside. So it's taking everything and dissecting everything down to all of the components, and then all the components that are affected by that thing. So it's a crazy thing, man. I don't know. I love it. I just love the process. The process itself is just so fun.
Yeah, definitely 100%.
I think with magicians as well, we've got the mindset of whenever we see something, we're like, ooh, how can I do a trick with this? Oh, how can I do that? It's like, what is deceitful about this thing? What can I hide in it? What can I do? And normal people are just like, it's just a bottle. Why are you doing it?
Yeah. But it's not just a bottle. Like, what if I shine a light through it? Does the pattern that the glass make, does that do something? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
There's so much stuff that you can do.
My girlfriend is
it's amazing with water.
My girlfriend is worried to like throw out anything. You'd be working on some props or you'd be making something or whatever, and I'm like, yeah, you can throw that out, but you can't throw that out. And it could be the exact same thing. You can throw out that matchbox, you can't throw out that matchbox. And she's like, I'm not touching anything. It's okay.
Yeah.
We actually just got a question in there from Regan there for your favorite magic books. I think in lockdown, everybody's looking for something to read at the moment.
I don't. I like reading psychology books and books about creativity. I think those transcribe over into magic very, very well.
Yeah, definitely.
I'm trying to think of like a good book right now that would be good for you. What was the last book that I finished that I thought was really good? I just started a book called Big Magic, which is interesting. That's really cool. A book, How to Fly a Horse. That's a really good book. That's a book on creativity and like innovation and how things are invented and things like that. That's a really, really good book. I always recommend Dale Carnegie, How to Win Friends and Influence People. That's always the 1 Minute Salesperson is another really good one. It's a really small book. I think it's Spencer Johnson. That's a really, really great book. Let's see, what else is really, really good? Charlie Mackesy, the mole, the boy, the fox, and the horse, I think that's what it is. That's a really short, it's just like a children's book, but that's so great. Like that's also another big thing. I like the Lorax. Lorax is an amazing book. So though, I don't really tend to read a lot of magic books. If I read magic books, they're more psychology based. So like Magic Rainbow, like that's an amazing book. Incredible, but that's also a whole different type of magic. Like that, it depends on what kind of a magician you're trying to be. Like I know a lot of people that would read the Magic Rainbow and they would just be like, this is a bunch of mumbo jumbo. You know what I mean? Like this doesn't make any sense to me. But they're just not thinking of that type of magician, of being that type of magician, of where you're literally I believe that psychology is, massive. It's massive in magic. It's, it's so, do I look to the left or do I look to the right? Do I pause? What words do I say? Right? Like, is it the words? The words are completely, that's everything. Words are literally everything. And so what word? It's like constructing a joke. Magic and comedy is a lot. It's very, very similar. And so I know comedians that would kill me that I said that, but like the word, like the structure. The way that a joke is structured is very, very similar. It's like a horror movie. But those three things to me are very, very similar. Magic,
definitely the same,
and horror movies. Yeah, so those are the books that I would recommend, man. I don't. If you want to get down like super dope into psychology, then Magic Rainbow is good. Some books that I've like gone through, like I've had some friends like send me some books that I've gone through and just like looked at read through them, but not like deep study them. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I've there's been some books that I've read that have some really great ideas in it. But as far as reading, I tend to go more towards like psychology. Humble Consultant, I just read that. That's a really great book. Humble Consulting is what it's called.
Yeah, we got a question in actually beforehand. So I'm asking Kevin here, any advice on how to become a consultant? Because that's something you as you're saying, you're not doing many gigs and stuff at the moment, but you seem to be consulting like for Blaine and a lot of other people. Do you have any advice for someone who is interested in consulting?
I mean, it depends on what your goal is, right? Like it's not one, like what is it that, what do you think that first you need to figure out what you have to offer, right? Like, what are you offering these people? Like the biggest thing right now is I think everybody wants to be a consultant because they just want to, but I want to create magic. I just want to create magic. Right? But that's not what a consultant does. I think there's a big misconception with that. That's a trick submitter, right? That's somebody who comes up with things for people. That's like a ghostwriter, something like that. But that's not magic consulting. And so it depends on what you want to do. So first you need to figure out what you have to offer. Like if you want to just submit tricks, then go create, man. That's the biggest, because I think that's kind of what he's asking is how do I get to where I come up with magic for people? If I could be wrong, but if that's the case, then go create, like go come up with magic. The work will speak for itself. Like there is no, you know what I mean? There's no half-assing. Like you're talking about like the biggest names in magic. If that's what you want to do, then you're now going up against all these other people that are trying to get their trick submitted to this person. You know what I mean? So just go create. Like just go come up with things. And it's like the work the work. You'll know if you hit it. Like if you hit it, it will resonate with people. Like if you have something that resonates like with people creatively, you're good to go, man. Like then just go do that, and then go submit things if that's what you want to do. If you want to do that, then go submit magic. I will tell you that it's a lot harder than you think. Like it's as far as like magic on television is very different as far as like how you're trying to hit somebody through a lens. You know what I mean? When you're in person, there's that vibe is going, like there's this energy that's happening. It's a dance that's happening with you. You know what I mean? And so on television, it's different. And so just keep going, man. Create. I would never discourage you to not do that. Just create.
Advice for somebody who is creating new magic on like maybe what you do to check if something's original, or like make sure you have the correct crediting on that. Do you have any resources or something that you use for that a lot?
Yeah. Is there any resources that I use?
Yeah.
I've got dope friends. That's the 100% truth. I mean, I've read a lot of magic books growing up. And so I'm very, very thankful and grateful that I working in magic shops, running magic shops, you know what I mean? Like all these different things, back whenever, in Houston, there was a place called H&R Magic Books when I was growing up. And it was at the time, the largest magic book, like kind of store. And like, I mean, that was in Houston. So like I had a wealth of knowledge 30 minutes from me. And nowadays I've got, dope friends that I can call and be like, hey, I need to make sure that this idea is original. What I tend to do is if I come up with something, if it even feels like it could be done before, then, just the smallest little piece of it feels like it can be done before, I mean, I go through everything, but I normally just call people and pay, like throw some money at some friends that have like research thing. I've called Bill Goodwin, that's another Max Maven, like those kind of guys. Those are guys that, are just encyclopedias, and Michael Weber inside, there's many a times when I literally will just text Weber and just be like, yo man, what's the source of this? Like, what is this? And have you seen this idea? You know what I mean? And it'll either be a yes or a no. That's it. And if it's a yes, I've seen it, then drop it.
There's definitely something I've come up with. I'm like, it's too obvious. That's like definitely someone's come up with that before. Yeah. Who wouldn't have come up with that? It's a bit like.
And if it has been done before, then just change. Like figure out how to change it so that it becomes different. You know what I mean? No, that's another good book. Steal Like an Artist. That's a great book.
Yeah, definitely. We're coming up 52 minutes now, so we'll go into our segment there because we know you have the hour, which is called The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly, where we ask our guests to tell us a story about a disastrous performance that might have started off good, went a bit bad, and eventually just turned out to be ugly. Does anything pop into your head?
The very first one that pops into my head. Oh man. Yeah, this is the worst one that I think I've ever done. I was in college and I was working corporate, and I was working at the time it was busy. At the time I was really, really hustling. So I would go work at an IHOP in the morning. Like you guys have IHOP out there, International House of Pancakes. So I would go work at an IHOP in the morning. I would do that, leave the IHOP, and I would go to this flea market. And then I would, my buddy had a magic shop in a flea market. And so I would go behind the counter and go help sell magic. I would leave the flea market, head to like a Chili's. You guys know what Chili's is? Chili's Bar and Grill. Yeah. I would head to this restaurant, Chili's, and I was their magician for like 4 years, something like that. I would do magic from there. And then if it wasn't that, then I would head from the shop and go busk at this boardwalk that was out by the water. And I would go busk and do like straight jacket and fire reading and stuff like that. So I was in the middle of doing all this stuff and going to college, and still broke. So I remember I got a phone call. Somebody saw me. I used to do this event. I used to do this thing. This company used to do like dream parties. So they would come up with these crazy parties, and like they would call me to like try to like help design the party and be a magician there, right? And so I got called. This lady saw me at this party, and she was like, "We have to have you at." And I was doing close up. She's like, "We have to have you at our corporate Christmas party." And I was like, "I'm in, I'm down, I'm doing it." And it was for Walmart, right? So it was a huge corporate Christmas party for Walmart. And so this is so awesome. I remember they wanted me to do 20 minutes on stage, and then do walk around for 30 minutes after. And so I was like, okay, cool, I can do that. No idea if I could or not. Like I was just like, and so I remember I call like my two best friends, and I'm like, hey, I've got to do this show. Like, do you guys want to help out with lights and shit like that? And they're like, yeah, let's, you're fine. And so I remember like my dad and I built this dope like shade illusion type thing like that out of I think it was like out of Mark Wilson or something like that. But like these like shades with like a light, and like I had a knife that was going to cut through all this stuff. I was doing like a floating candy cane. I had like this rocky bit. I think I did the snowstorm thing. I can't remember everything. And the reason I can't remember is because I had never done a stage show before. I had a dub act that I used to do when I was younger, and I hadn't done that in years. You know what I mean? So I didn't have like a stage act. And I remember it rained on the way to the place, and I was in a truck with the screens. So it ruined the screens. I get there. I'm like, don't worry about it. You got this, bro. It's all good. And I remember Jesus, how old was I? 17? No, it was college. So 18? It was either 18 or 19. And so I show up. They're excited. I go to the stage. I'm setting up my stuff. Like my buddy's running lights. I've got like this little mini fog machine. It's awesome. And I remember I'm on stage, and I was on for probably 5 minutes. And I felt it. Like I knew that I was gonna bomb. Like I felt it. Like I did not have the crowd talking to 2,000 people or whatever it is completely different than talking to 20. You know what I mean? And so, and I know that now. And so I remember after like 5 minutes, I was like, this is not going anywhere. This is definitely not going, like, this is not good. Like I knew it. I knew it wasn't good. I was completely terrible. And I remember I struggled through 20 minutes. I think I actually maybe only did 10 to 15, to be honest with you. And I remember I think I had a snowstorm at the very end is what it was. A red and white snowstorm with a candy cane, I think. So I don't remember. It was really bad, whatever it was. And so I remember I do this thing, and I finish, and it was like a movie. It was like what did we just watch, right? And I remember I finished. I am super embarrassed, obviously, right? I'm just completely embarrassed. I feel terrible. Like I'm like, man, and I had a really not like I wasn't a huge ego, but like I was like, because I was already like people in my hometown and like in Houston and all that were like, there was only a few like young magicians that were like coming up with their own stuff and like working and gigging and this kind of stuff. You know what I mean? Yeah. And so like I'd already kind of like not a reputation, but like in that community, you know what I mean? It was just like this kind of younger, cocky kind of, kid who could, do magic. And so like my ego was just smashed so bad. And the next day I get a phone call, and I had booked this strolling gig for another big corporate event, and they canceled the gig the next day because a person, the lady's husband worked for this company. She worked at Walmart. And so they were at the party, and they were like, we are not using this dude. Like, we are not using the guy. So crazy. And then they ended up hiring like this dude that was like an uncle or something like that. And the show was with like Banachek. Like Banachek was one of the magicians there. Like this other gig that got canceled. And so they ended up hiring this little guy who ended up like, it was like this older guy who was like, I can do magic. And he like did the diamond penny with a little red block. He just did that, and the little imp bought it at every single table. And so, which I mean, more power to him, bro. Like right on. But I remember I was like, oh, why did that happen? I've been nervous ever since because of that. I mean, I'm super comfortable on stage now. But I still think every single time I think about specifically the last time I was, who was it? Wayne Dobson, contacted me for Blackpool a couple years ago and wanted me to close his Wayne Dobson and Friends show. Mm-hmm. And I was super honored. Like I was like, oh man, it made my heart sing, like, cause that dude's incredible. Right. Yeah. And so he's like, oh, I want you to close this thing. And so I was like, right on. Well, it was right when I landed. So I remember getting off of the plane, and it's my best friend. I think my ex was with me. I think that's it. And I remember we take off from the airport, got to go through customs, I haven't gone to the hotel or anything. I've got like my luggage And I remember getting out of the cab. I think it was the black car. The black car took us up to the front of the entrance of the Blackpool. What was that place called? I can't remember what that place is called. Took me there, dropped it off. I remember going in, saying hi to people, taking photos really fast, and like I gotta go. And like, and my buddy Alex is so dope. Like he's amazing because he's like a security guard / like like he's like a father in himself. He's just like, get out of the way. He's doing a show. And so you never felt more like a rock star unless you have like one of your best friends like with you to make you feel like a rock star.
Pushing you back.
And I remember going in and dropping my bags, getting mic'd up, and like staying because the show I was going on, and I literally was the next person up in this gig straight off the plane with a 16, 17-hour flight. And I remember standing on the stairs and going, "Oh man, don't let this be like Walmart. Don't let this be like Walmart." That was years ago, man.
Have you ever worked for Walmart since?
Who?
If anybody in Walmart's watching, he's a great performer.
Oh man, I don't. I mean, it's obviously that was a long time ago. So I've done plenty since then. But that was the one, man. That was the one still to this day that was just like, ooh, that hurt.
Definitely. We just crossed the hour there. I was going to say thank you so much, Daniel Garcia, for coming on the show. And everyone can follow you at Garcia Magic on Instagram. And if you want to promote anything else while you have a captive audience.
Nah, man, I'm good. I think you guys are dope, dude. Thanks for the super awesome conversation, man. You guys are super cool and like really kind. And you guys had awesome questions, man. Hopefully, somebody can take any kind of story or whatever I told and can turn it into something that helps them out. So
definitely.
No, it was great. It was great advice for everyone listening, and it was a good list of books there that they can check out as well, where we're all in the pandemic and everything. So it's awesome, and you're more than welcome to come to Ireland for the crack, man, anytime.
Yeah.
We'll have some extra.
That's amazing, man. Thank you guys. Yeah, thank you guys so much for having me, dude. That was
no problem. And we don't later. Everybody can follow us on social media and DeceiveReality.com, Ireland's newest magic shop. So thank you so much, and we'll talk to you again next week.